She kissed him goodbye like everything was fine. Said she was going to visit family. 600 kilometers away. 1 week. 3 days later, my buddy saw her smiling on a restaurant patio, with her ex. He didn't scream. Didn't confront. He took photos. Went home. And planned the coldest revenge I've ever witnessed. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you loved, this story is for you. Like the video, subscribe for more true tales of karma and justice, and tell me in the comments, what would you have done? Because what he did was legendary. Trouble in paradise. You always think it won't happen to you. That kind of betrayal? That's someone else's nightmare. But for my friend Daniel, it started slowly, like a hairline crack in a windshield. Barely visible at first. But over time? It shattered everything. Daniel and Kayla had been living together for just over a year. Not married, but close. They shared bills, a bed, a future, or so he thought. But things weren't perfect. They'd hit a rough patch. Fewer date nights. More silent dinners. That slow drift that happens when one person starts emotionally checking out. At first, Daniel blamed himself. He worked long hours as a systems analyst. Often came home mentally drained. He'd slump onto the couch, scrolling mindlessly, while Kayla stared at her phone across the room. Conversations that once lit up their nights had turned into nothing more than, "Did you eat?" and "What time are you home tomorrow?" Still, Daniel believed in the ebb and flow. Relationships go through cycles. Maybe they were just in a winter season. A cold spell, but Kayla's coldness felt different. Like someone wasn't just frozen, but already walking out the door. Her convenient escape. That's when she floated the idea. "I think I'm going to visit my parents for a week," she said one Thursday evening while they stood in the kitchen. Daniel looked up from rinsing dishes. "Out to Windsor?" "Yeah," she replied, not meeting his eyes. "I need some time. It's been tense lately." He dried his hands and walked toward her. "Do you want to talk? Is something wrong?" She gave him a half-hearted smile. "No. I need space to think." That night, they slept on opposite edges of the bed. The distance felt like a canyon. She left the next morning with a light suitcase and a goodbye kiss on the cheek. Not lips. Not eyes. Cheek. Like saying goodbye. To a coworker, Daniel watched her drive away. For hours, he sat by the window, thinking of nothing. Everything. The knife in the back. 3 days into her family trip, Daniel was scrolling Instagram out of habit. He didn't expect anything. He just needed distraction. A mutual friend had posted a photo of a downtown restaurant. He tapped through the carousel of images casually, until the fourth picture punched him in the gut. Kayla, seated on a patio, dressed in the pale yellow sweater he'd bought her last spring. Across from her sat Jason, her ex. The one she claimed she hadn't spoken to in years. His mouth went dry. His fingers froze on the screen. He zoomed in. They were laughing. Kayla had her hand on the table, leaned slightly toward Jason. Her body language was intimate. Familiar. Like a woman who'd never left, his thoughts began to spiral. He stared at the image until it blurred, then he got in his car and drove. He didn't know what he'd do. But he needed to see it for himself. Confirmation hurts. It took him 20 minutes to find the restaurant. He parked across the street and waited, and there they were. Flesh and blood. Kayla was tossing her head back in laughter. Jason reached out and tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Daniel's heart crumpled. He reached for his phone. Took a photo. Then another. And another. Each click was a pin stabbing his chest, but he stayed quiet. Stayed hidden. Then drove home, numb. The least loophole. Daniel sat at the edge of their bed that night, staring into space. Their room was dimly lit by a lamp she'd picked out during a spontaneous IKEA trip. She wasn't on the lease. Never had been. Daniel was on a month-to-month. All he needed was 60 days' notice. And he knew what he was going to do. The next morning, he visited the landlord. Mark, a retired contractor turned property manager, had always liked Daniel. When Daniel Explained everything, showed the photos, laid out his plan. Mark just nodded slowly. Cold, he said. But clean. And with that, the clock began ticking. A ghost in his own home. When Kayla returned home 2 days later, Daniel was cool. Not icy. Not angry. Just neutral. She hugged him. He responded, but loosely. She asked how his week was. He said it was fine. They went through the motions. 8. Dinner in silence. Watched half of a sitcom episode before she said she was tired and went to bed. Daniel slept on the couch that night. She didn't ask why. Over the next 3 weeks, she began coming home later. Sometimes she said she was with friends. Sometimes she didn't say anything. Daniel never asked. He started packing small things. Things she wouldn't notice. Books. Tools. Cables. Keepsakes. In the mornings, he'd wake before her and take boxes to a small storage unit he'd rented on the edge of town. He marked each one carefully: living room, electronics, bedroom, clothes, kitchen, appliances. Each label felt like a quiet goodbye. The hidden parade. Mark, the landlord, began bringing in potential tenants discreetly. He scheduled visits when Kayla was out. Sometimes during her claimed girls' nights. They walked through the apartment, remarking on the open layout, the light from the balcony. No one asked about the second toothbrush in the bathroom. Kayla never knew. The calm before the break. 2 nights before the move, Kayla came home smelling faintly of someone else's cologne. Daniel noticed. He didn't say a word. She kicked off her heels, microwaved leftovers, and scrolled through TikTok in bed. Daniel sat in the living room and listened to the dull hum of betrayal breathing beside him. The countdown was almost done. Moving day. Friday morning arrived like a silent bomb. At 6:30 a.m., Daniel opened the door to the moving crew. 3 men with dollies, gloves, and quiet urgency. He directed them with precision. Labeled boxes. Furniture. Electronics. By 9 a.m., the apartment was a shell. Just walls and silence. 9:20, Kayla emerged from the bedroom. She blinked at the empty space. What the hell is going on? Daniel didn't answer. He placed a manila envelope on the now bare kitchen counter. She opened it. Photos spilled out. Her. With Jason. Smiling. Intimate. She gasped. Her face flushed. The final blow. That's when Mark walked in. He looked at her and said, flatly, "You have until midnight to get your stuff out. New tenants are coming. If it's not gone by then, it'll be on the curb." She turned to Daniel. "You can't do this." He finally spoke. "You already did." She started crying. Not sobbing, just frozen tears. Shocked. He walked out. The leftovers. Kayla's possessions didn't fill much space. 2 suitcases of clothes. A makeup case. A curling iron. Her favorite throw blanket. By evening, she stood in the center of the empty living room, surrounded by trash bags and shame. Daniel snapped one final photo. Not out of cruelty, but as closure. The apartment, now hollow. Her, finally exposed. The quiet aftermath. She called. He didn't answer. She emailed. He didn't reply. She tried coming by his new place once. He didn't open the door. She left a note. He burned it. Kayla eventually moved back with her parents. Jason? Gone within a month. Rebuilding. Daniel's new apartment was small, but peaceful. No tension. No silence loaded with resentment. He filled it with plants, books, and sunlight. He took up cooking again. Ran in the mornings. Read philosophy at night. His friends noticed the change. He wasn't bitter. Just clear. Legacy of silence. Even years later, when someone in our circle talks about cheating or betrayal, Daniel's name comes up, not because he yelled or exploded, but because he showed what dignity in destruction looks like. He didn't just break up with Kayla. He erased her. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't chaos. It's silence. Precision. Grace under fire, because real power is leaving someone speechless. Have you ever seen revenge that left someone stunned beyond words? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like this video, share it with someone who's been burned, and don't forget to subscribe, because in the end, the coldest moves come from the quietest hands.